I'm feeling quite lonely up here just now, so it would be really lovely if there are any if younger people, if you want to come and join me, bring your kneeler, and if you want to bring a grown-up too, that's fine, or a friend, because I've got a special guest I would like you to come and meet this morning. So come on, be brave, bring your kneelers and come and join me. And if any of the choir want to come too, come forward. That's it, come round the front so you can see a bit better. That's lovely. That's it, don't be shy, keep coming. Lovely. It's good to have you all here today and to see you all here with us. There are lots of things to think about in terms of seeing today. Our lighted candles help us to see, don't they? They give us light. We've been thinking over the last 3 weeks about people who have seen special things in Jesus over this Epiphany season. We've been thinking about how the wise travellers from the east saw the Christ child in Jesus. And then we heard how John the Baptist saw in Jesus the Lamb of God. Last week we heard about the eyes of the temple being on Jesus when he read from prophet Isaiah, saying that the Spirit was on him. And this week we've heard the story of Anna and Simeon. Anna and Simeon, who were part of the temple community, the massive temple community, 40 days after the birth of Jesus. When he was about 6 weeks old, he was brought to the temple. And I wonder if before they saw him at 6 weeks old, they might have heard him first. A little cry, I think, maybe. Sometimes I wonder, it's all very well for these people, isn't it, who saw Jesus. But it's difficult for us to see Jesus. They lived when Jesus was alive. But for us to see Jesus is quite tricky. So I'm really delighted that this morning we have someone in our cathedral community who is going to help us understand how we can see things better. So I'm going to invite Willow and Piers to come and join me. Come on, Willow. Come on, Willow. Come and sit down, Willow. Now, Piers and I met for coffee in PK's last week, thinking about this story together. And we spent an hour chatting, and we've got about 5 minutes now. So do come and talk to us after the service if you want to know more. I think we'll stick to 3 questions or thereabouts. Does that sound all right? Okay. So my first question, hello Willow. My first question, and it's probably better if you answer rather than Willow, is how does Willow help you to make sense of the world around you?
Well, before Willow came to be with me, my eyes stopped working properly. And because I was very scared of falling over things, I had to look down a lot of the time so I didn't trip over. Then along came Willow, and because Willow can look at everything for me at ground level, like rubbish bins, lampposts and so on, I don't have to worry about not tripping over things, so I can look up and around me. So oddly, I can actually see more now.
And I remember you speaking a little bit about how sometimes Willow sees things that you haven't seen, and you have to have faith in her that she's going to take you the right way, even if you think you can see something, a better way to go. Yes. Yeah, that's good. So thinking on from that then, how has Willow changed your life? What impact has she had on your life?
Well, it means that I can get around a lot easier. I can get around, I can go places I wouldn't go beforehand. But it also means that I've had to learn to have a lot of faith and to learn to trust in Willow, because by the time I can see something and I try and move around it, I need to accept that Willow will have seen it a long, long time before me. So even if I can see things going on or I can hear things and I'm a little bit curious about them, I just have to accept I'm going in the right way and the Willow will guide me where I need to go to.
Thank you. Perhaps you could just tell us a little bit more about how Willow has made you do things that you wouldn't do, the difference between before having the dog. You told me a story about coming out in the snow and that you had to choose to do things very differently in your life because of Willow.
Well, yes, it was before Willow. My first guide dog was Oyster. And the first couple of weeks when I had her, I was only allowed out on my own once. I was allowed to come to church on my own with her. And I got all prepared for it. And then on the morning of coming to church, it snowed. And it snowed really, really heavily. But I decided that we'd done all the training, and I decided that we could do it. We walked all the way from home, all the way to the cathedral with Oyster. And Oyster spent most of the time sitting at the back, trying to keep warm by the radiator and smelling like a wet dog. And then she guided me back home, and I didn't think we could do it. But with her help, we did.
And then the other thing you did for me is you totally dispelled a myth about people who have reduced vision or who are completely blind, that they have better hearing.
Sorry? It's not so much better hearing, it's that I listen a lot more. So, for example, when I go to work, instead of looking at my computer to look at letters I'm working on, so on, I'll get the computer to read things back to me. So I can be sure when I'm listening that I've written what I meant to write, and that it actually sounds right for other people who are going to read it.
Thank you, Piers. Now, folk who are sitting down here in front of me, I've got a spelling question for you. What do you get if you spell dog backwards? They tell me the answer is God. And that, my friends, leaves us with 3 very similar questions. As we come to the end of Epiphany, when we've seen and heard how God is being revealed in the world, and as we follow in the footsteps of Piers and Willow the dog, we have to ponder how is it that God helps us to make sense of the world around us. And we have to ask ourselves, what impact has our relationship with God had on the way we choose to live our lives? And how do we respond to that? And how do we live differently because of that? And lastly, perhaps, what is it that we are doing to learn to listen? Thank you, Piers. Thank you, Willow. So Willow is working. She has her harness on. Perhaps sometimes you'll have an opportunity when she doesn't have her harness on to say hello to her. And do, as I say, please, come and speak to either myself or Piers after the service. We'd love to continue the conversation with you. Thank you.